Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the Voice of Reason. In our ongoing coverage of the civil war that is taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia, the war continues unabated. There continues to be very heavy fighting in multiple areas across the former state of Ethiopia. More specifically, in the southern area of operations along the Tigray, Amhara frontal areas, we are receiving continued reports of a fairly significant military buildup of Tigray defense forces inside of the Amhara region. There has been documented footage and media reports of continued columns of Tigrayan defense forces moving into the Amhara region from the Tigray region as forces inside of the Tigray region are trained, they're being mobilized, and they continue to be forward deployed into areas of the Amhara region. And we continue to look at strategic depth being created and or maintained by the Tigrayan Defense Forces. We're looking again as on the southeastern frontal zone, the forces of the Tigrayan Defense Forces continue to operate well south of Weldia, just south of Mersa and Wachale. And we continue to see fighting in the vicinity north of Dese and near Dese. But we continue to see forces being deployed from both the Tigray region and redeployment of forces from the Afar region into areas in the northern Amhara region. We continue to see fighting along the western or the southwestern front in the vicinity of Debark. We have reports that Amhara militias and the Ethiopian military have been able to somewhat break the siege of Debark and have pressed farther north of Debark or towards Zarima in this area here on my map. It would appear that the Tigrayan Defense Forces have created a fairly significant defensive line in the area north of Zarima, near Adi Arke and south of those areas as well. But the situation continues to go seesaw back and forth in the western frontal zone, in the Debark area of operations. As you remember, initially we did see the TDF was able to move south and envelop Debark, or they were on the gates of Debark, so to speak. They were pushed back. Then there was another counteroffensive, and then the TDF was able to circumvent Debark, besiege it, and press further south to Dabat. That obviously the situation has changed from what was going on there, and as of right now, it would seem that the fighting continues to seesaw back and forth. But we are continuing to hear that the TDF, the Tigrayan Defense Forces, are continuing to reinforce this area for a possible renewed counteroffensive at some point. In the central area of operations, Gashina is still under the control of the Tigrayan Defense Forces. Lalibela is still under the control of the Tigrayan Defense Forces, and fighting is occurring west of Gashina and in the vicinity east and near Debre Zabet. The situation around or in the town of Sakota is unsure at this time. We continue to receive reports on both sides that both sides control the city of Sakota. Again, a seesaw situation back and forth. But right now, just in terms of the overall strategic situation and who is controlling the Temple of the War, the Amhara region is still under the occupation, or large parts of the Amhara region, possibly up to 20%, is still under the occupation by the Tigrayan Defense Forces. Towns such as Weldia and large stretches of town ranging from Kobo, Weldia, Mersa, and then south are under the control of the Tigrayan Defense Forces, as are areas along the central southern front, which I'm identifying that as. And that would include Gashina and areas in the vicinity east of there are also under the direct control of the Tigrayan Defense Forces. So we're going to see one of two things happen. We're eventually going to see a possible renewed counteroffensive by the Amhara militias, by the Ethiopian military, in an attempt to drive out the Tigrayan Defense Forces from these areas that they hold. Keep in mind that they have now held areas such as Kobo. They have held areas in Weldia for a fairly significant time now, and they're starting, meaning the Tigrayan Defense Forces are starting to have the ability to become more knowledgeable of the land and set up defensive positions to obstruct any kind of advance by the Amhara militias and the Ethiopian military. We could see a renewed offensive by the Tigrayan Defense Forces. We know that there is significant buildup occurring in many areas inside of the Amhara region as more and more forces of the TDF continue to move into the Amhara region. The likelihood of a renewed heavy offensive by the TDF that could result, and again, the seesaw actions and rapid breakthroughs at times that we do see could again occur. Again, this is a very fluid conflict, and by no stretch of the imagination has it been resolved one way or the other. But again, right now, from a completely unbiased viewpoint, the area of operations, the tempo of operations, who controls who controls whose territory. The advantage right now is with the Tigrayan Defense Forces. Obviously, they are operating in the Amhara region, and they continue to operate inside the Amhara region. The Ethiopian army, with the exception of Western Tigray, which has been the status quo for some time. We're not seeing a tremendous amount of activity west of the Tikizi River, or east of the Tikizi River for that matter. But the ability for the Ethiopian armed forces or the Amhara militias to enter the Tigray region has greatly been degraded. And the goal of creating that strategic depth to create these buffer zones have been successful on the part of the TDF. I believe we were looking at really two strategies. We were looking at one was to create strategic depth to prevent a reinvasion of the Tigray region. Now, could there still be a possible reinvasion of the Tigray region? Yes, absolutely. It depends on how the fighting goes inside of the Amhara region. And then obviously the other goal could have been, and still could be, a drive on major areas such as Gondar and even possibly further south towards other targets such as Dese. I would say at this point, right now, Addis Ababa, the idea, and that was talked about, of we could see a TDF move against Addis Ababa. Right now, I would say under the current conditions is remote. We could still see operations to seize control of Dese and move further south and hold territory to create that strategic depth. Remember, creating strategic depth to prevent conflict inside of the Tigray region was a major strategic goal, and that has been accomplished for right now, outside of the issue that is going on with Western Tigray. But that's the situation as we speak. We'll continue to monitor the situation and report as events warrant. Have a great day, everybody.